The universe holds many stories. Some are written in the stars, others are written in ancient books. The book of 2 Samuel is one such story. It tells of kings and kingdoms, of battles and betrayals. It speaks of great faith and deep sorrow. This book is a window into a time long past, yet its lessons still echo today. It shows us the complexities of leadership. It reveals the human heart in all its strength and its weakness. We learn about power and how it can change people. 2 Samuel focuses on the reign of King David. He was a shepherd boy who became a great king. His life was filled with triumphs. It was also marked by deep personal struggles. The book does not hide his flaws. It presents him as a real person, a man chosen for a great purpose, a man who sometimes stumbled on his path. His story is a testament to human potential and divine guidance. This book is more than history. It is a lesson for all times, a guide for the heart. Every life has roots, a beginning. Mephibosheth was born into a royal family. He was a prince. His grandfather was Saul, the very first king of Israel. Saul was a tall and imposing figure. He was chosen by God to lead his people. He started as a humble man, but the weight of the crown changed him. He faced many enemies. He fought many battles. His reign was troubled, marked by moments of glory and deep despair. This was the world Mephibosheth was born into, a world of power and peril. Mephibosheth's father was Jonathan. Jonathan was King Saul's eldest son. He was a brave warrior. He was known for his courage and his good heart. Unlike his father in later years, Jonathan was a man of great faith. He was also a loyal friend. His friendship with David, who would later become king, is legendary. They made a covenant, a sacred promise to each other. This bond of love and loyalty would one day shape Mephibosheth's entire life. Life can change in an instant. A single moment can alter a destiny forever. For young Mephibosheth, that moment came with terrible news. War had come to Israel once more. King Saul and his sons, including the brave Jonathan, went to fight against their enemies, the Philistines. The battle was fierce. It took place on Mount Gilboa. The outcome was devastating for Israel. King Saul was defeated. He and his 3 sons, Jonathan among them, were killed. The news was a crushing blow to the nation. When word of this tragedy reached the royal household, panic erupted. Mephibosheth was just a little boy then. He was only 5 years old. He was too young to understand the full meaning of war or death, but he could feel the fear and chaos around him. His nurse, the woman who cared for him, knew the danger. In her haste to escape and protect the young prince, she picked him up. But in the confusion and rush, a terrible accident happened. After the tragedy, Mephibosheth disappeared from the royal scene. He was taken to a place of hiding. This place was called Lo-Debar. The name itself tells a story. It means no pasture or no word. It suggests a barren and desolate land, a place far away from the richness and vibrancy of the king's court. It was a place of obscurity, where a forgotten prince could live unnoticed. This was necessary for his survival. The political climate was dangerous. David was rising to power, and any descendant of Saul could be seen as a threat. Life in Lo-Debar must have been very different from the palace. There were no royal comforts there, no servants attending to every need. Mephibosheth grew up in this remote place. He lived in the house of a man named Machir, son of Amiel. Machir was a kind man. He took Mephibosheth in and cared for him. This act of kindness in a harsh world was a small light. But still, Mephibosheth lived with his disability. He lived with the memory of loss. He lived as a hidden remnant of a fallen dynasty. Years passed in this quiet isolation. Mephibosheth would have grown from a boy into a young man. Section 5. A King's Unforgettable Vow. David remembers Jonathan. While Mephibosheth lived in obscurity, King David's reign grew strong. David had united the kingdom. He had defeated his enemies. He sat securely on the throne of Israel. Many years had passed since the death of Saul and Jonathan. Many kings, in David's position, would have forgotten old promises, or they might have actively sought to eliminate any remaining members of the previous royal family. This was common practice. It was a way to secure one's own dynasty. But David was different. His heart held a special memory. David remembered Jonathan. He remembered his dearest friend. He remembered the deep love they shared. He remembered the covenant they had made. A promise sworn before God. They had pledged to show kindness to each other's families forever. This was not just a political agreement. It was a bond of the soul. And David was a man who, despite his failings, valued loyalty. He valued kindness. The memory of Jonathan and their sacred vow weighed upon his conscience. He felt a deep need to honor that promise. One day, King David asked a question. He asked his court, "Is there anyone still left of the house of Saul to whom I can show kindness for Jonathan's sake?" This question was remarkable. It showed David's character. Section 6. The Royal Summons. Fear Meets Grace. Ziba revealed the truth to King David. He said, "There is still a son of Jonathan. He is crippled in his feet." He also told David where Mephibosheth was living, in Lodabar in the house of Machir. Imagine Mephibosheth's life at that moment. He was likely accustomed to his quiet, hidden existence. He was the son of David's former rival, Saul's grandson. In the ancient world, this often meant danger. He probably lived with a certain level of apprehension. A knock on the door could mean many things, few of them good for someone in his position. So, King David sent for him. Royal messengers traveled to Lodabar. They came to Machir's house. They summoned Mephibosheth to appear before the king in Jerusalem. Can you imagine the fear that must have gripped Mephibosheth's heart? He was being called by the king who had, in a sense, replaced his grandfather's dynasty. He might have thought this was the end, that David had finally decided to eliminate the last male heir of Saul. His disability would have made any attempt to flee impossible. He had no choice but to obey the summons. Mephibosheth was brought to Jerusalem. He entered the royal palace. He stood before King David, the man who held his life in his hands. The Bible tells us that Mephibosheth bowed down low. Section 7. Restoration and honor, a seat at the king's table. King David's next words to Mephibosheth were astonishing. He said, "Do not fear, for I will surely show you kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan." This was the fulfillment of the vow. David then declared two remarkable things. First, he would restore to Mephibosheth all the land that had belonged to his grandfather, King Saul. This was a huge gift. It meant Mephibosheth would have wealth and status. He would no longer be a forgotten man living in a barren place. He would be a landowner, a man of substance. The second declaration was even more profound. David said, "And you shall eat bread at my table continually." This was an incredible honor. To eat at the king's table meant more than just sharing meals. It signified acceptance. It signified favor. It meant Mephibosheth was considered part of the king's own household. He, the grandson of David's predecessor and potential rival, would be treated like one of David's own sons. This was an act of radical hospitality and grace. It went far beyond any political necessity. It was a gesture from the heart. Mephibosheth was overwhelmed. Section 8. Testing loyalty. The shadow of Ziba's deceit. Life, even after great blessings, can still bring trials. Mephibosheth's story includes a painful episode of betrayal and misunderstanding. Years later, King David faced a rebellion led by his own son Absalom. David was forced to flee Jerusalem for his life. It was a time of chaos and uncertainty. Many people had to choose sides. Loyalty was tested. In this difficult time, Ziba, the servant who managed Mephibosheth's lands, saw an opportunity for his own gain. He acted deceitfully. As David was leaving Jerusalem, Ziba met him. He brought provisions for David and his men, donkeys, bread, fruit, and wine. David asked Ziba, "Where is your master's son?" meaning Mephibosheth. Ziba lied. He told David that Mephibosheth had stayed in Jerusalem. Ziba claimed Mephibosheth believed that the turmoil was a chance for the kingdom to be restored to Saul's family, to himself. This was a terrible slander. Ziba painted Mephibosheth as disloyal and opportunistic, hoping to benefit from David's downfall. David, in the distress and confusion of his flight, believed Ziba's lie. He was likely hurt and disappointed. He made a hasty decision. He told Ziba, "Behold, all that belonged to Mephibosheth is now yours." Section 9. A legacy of kindness, redemption's enduring light. Mephibosheth's journey is a profound story. It is woven into the larger tapestry of King David's reign. It speaks across the ages. It tells us about the enduring power of kindness. David's actions towards Mephibosheth were not required by law or custom. They flowed from a promise made in love to Jonathan. This kindness transformed a life. It lifted a man from obscurity and fear. It restored his dignity. It reminds us that acts of compassion can bring light into the darkest of circumstances. They can heal old wounds. The theme of loyalty also shines brightly. Jonathan's loyalty to David, even when it conflicted with his own father's wishes. David's loyalty to his covenant with Jonathan, remembered and honored years later, and Mephibosheth's own loyalty to David, even when he was wronged by Ziba and misunderstood by the king. He valued the king's safety and friendship above his own possessions. This deep sense of faithfulness, of steadfast commitment, is a powerful lesson. It shows the strength found in true loyalty, a bond that endures hardship, and then there is redemption. Mephibosheth's story is a beautiful picture of redemption. He was born a prince, then fell into tragedy and disability. He lived in a place called no pasture, forgotten and hidden,